The metallic click of my key refusing to turn in the lock was almost poetic. After a 12-hour shift at the hospital, I stood on the front porch of what had been my childhood home for 28 years, staring at brass that gleamed too bright under the porch light. Fresh locks. Professional installation. The note was taped exactly where my mother knew I'd see it, written in her precise handwriting on cream-colored stationery that probably cost more than most people's grocery budget. Maya, find your own place. We're done supporting you. The locks have been changed. Your belongings are in the garage. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Mother. I read it twice, standing there in my scrubs with my stethoscope still around my neck, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Not anger. Not hurt. Relief. For 3 years, I'd been living in the converted basement of my parents' 6-bedroom colonial in Westchester County, supposedly saving money, while I built my medical practice. What they didn't know was that I hadn't needed their charity since my 2nd year of residency. What they really didn't know was that as of last Tuesday, I owned the house they'd just locked me out of. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Marcus? It's Maya. Yes, I know it's late. Proceed with the eviction notice. Tonight. Are you sure about this? My lawyer asked. It's your parents. I'm sure. They just changed the locks on my own house. I could hear him shuffling papers. The transfer went through clean last week. Westbrook Property Holdings now owns 47 Maple Street in its entirety. Your parents are officially tenants with a 30-day notice period, which as of tonight, they've violated by changing locks without landlord permission. How quickly can you have the sheriff here? Give me 2 hours. I ended the call and sat on the porch steps, finally allowing myself to process what had just happened. My parents had kicked me out. Actually kicked me out. After everything. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 months ago, when my father's accounting firm had been hemorrhaging money due to an embezzlement scandal involving my brother Trevor, I'd quietly arranged for Westbrook Property Holdings, my shell company, to purchase their mortgage from the bank. Not to hurt them. To protect them. The bank had been preparing foreclosure proceedings. I'd saved their house and let them continue living in it, paying a mortgage they could actually afford instead of the crushing payments that had been destroying their finances. I'd planned to tell them eventually. Maybe at Christmas. Maybe when Trevor's legal troubles were resolved. I'd pictured it as a gift. Surprise. You never have to worry about losing the house again. Instead, they decided I was a burden. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Hope this teaches you some responsibility. Maybe now you'll appreciate what we've done for you. I almost laughed. What they'd done for me. For the past 3 years I'd been paying most of their bills. Their health insurance, their car payments, the property taxes on this house, even my mother's weekly spa appointments. They thought the money was coming from my father's firm, but Richard Blackwood and Associates had been operating at a loss since Trevor's theft had been discovered. The only reason they still had clients was because I'd been quietly covering the firm's insurance and bonding costs. My parents thought I was a struggling resident living in their basement. In reality, I was Dr. Maya Blackwood, partner in Metropolitan Medical Group, with a patient list that included 3 senators, 2 federal judges, and the mayor's entire family. My medical practice generated more income in a month than my father's accounting firm had made in the past 2 years. The black sedan that pulled into the driveway at 10:47 p.m. wasn't subtle. Sheriff's Deputy Marcus Williams stepped out, followed by my lawyer and a locksmith. Dr. Blackwood, Marcus nodded. We'd worked together on several emergency medical situations. This is unusual even for you. Trust me, Marcus, this isn't how I wanted to spend my Tuesday night either. The front door opened before we reached it. My father appeared in his robe, his silver hair disheveled. Behind him I could see my mother clutching her silk robe closed, her face pale without makeup. What the hell is this? Dad demanded. Marcus held up the paperwork. Mr. Blackwood, I'm here to serve you with an eviction notice. You're in violation of your rental agreement by changing locks without landlord permission. Rental agreement? My father's voice cracked. This is our house. We own this house. Actually, sir, you don't. My lawyer stepped forward. The property was purchased by Westbrook Property Holdings last week. Here's the deed transfer. I watched my father's face as he scanned the documents. My mother moved to read over his shoulder, her manicured hand gripping his arm. This is impossible, she whispered. We never sold the house. You didn't sell it, Marcus explained patiently. Your mortgage was in default. The bank sold it to avoid foreclosure. The new owner graciously allowed you to remain as tenants, but changing the locks tonight violated the rental agreement. My father looked up from the papers, his eyes finding mine. Maya, what is this? Some kind of joke? I stepped forward. No joke, Dad. You locked me out of my own house. Your house. My mother's voice rose to a shriek. What are you talking about? Westbrook Property Holdings, I said calmly. That's my company. I bought the house to keep the bank from foreclosing. I've been covering your mortgage payments for 3 months. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. My father's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that might have been shame. You're lying, my mother said flatly. You don't have that kind of money. You're a resident. You live in our basement. I'm a partner at Metropolitan Medical Group, Mom. I have been for 2 years. I never lived in your basement because I needed to. I stayed because I thought you needed me here. My father was staring at the deed transfer like it might change if he looked long enough. Where did you get $300,000? Dad, I make more than that in 6 months. Trevor's legal defense alone cost me $80,000, and I've been covering the shortfall at your firm since the scandal broke. That's impossible, my mother repeated, but her voice was weaker now. I pulled out my phone and showed them my banking app. The number on the screen made my mother actually stumble backward. $2.4 million. I said quietly. That's just my checking account. The locksmith cleared his throat. Should I change the locks back, Dr. Blackwood? I looked at my parents, these people who had raised me and loved me and somehow convinced themselves that I was a burden they needed to shed. My father was 63 years old, standing in his bathrobe on a Tuesday night, being evicted from his own house by his daughter. My mother, who had just this afternoon been bragging to her book club about forcing me to be more independent, was staring at a bank balance that represented more money than they'd saved in 30 years of marriage. No, I said finally. I think we need to have a conversation first. Marcus nodded. I'll give you folks some time to work this out. But Dr. Blackwood, you're within your rights here. The lock change was a clear violation. After the sheriff and lawyer left, the three of us stood in the foyer of my house, and it felt strange to think of it that way, with the locksmith waiting patiently by his van. I don't understand, my father said, and for the first time in years he sounded his age. If you have this kind of money, why were you living here? Because you're my parents, I said simply. Because when Trevor got arrested and your firm started losing clients, I could see you were struggling. Because I thought maybe if I stayed close I could help without you feeling like charity cases. My mother was crying now, mascara she'd hastily applied running down her cheeks. We thought you couldn't afford. You thought I was a failure, I finished. A daughter who couldn't support herself at 28. An embarrassment you needed to motivate with tough love. Maya, we never said. Mom, you literally changed the locks and left me a note telling me to find my own place. My father sat heavily in the antique chair by the front door. Your practice. Metropolitan Medical Group. That's where Senator Williams goes. Among others. And how long have you been covering our expenses? Since Trevor's arraignment. About 8 months. The number seemed to hit him like a physical blow. 8 months. The mortgage, the property taxes, your health insurance, Dad's malpractice insurance for the firm, Mom's car payment, the utilities. Did you think your monthly expenses had magically dropped by 70%? My mother was staring at me like I was a stranger. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never asked. Because every conversation we had was about when I was going to get a real job, or move out or stop being a burden. Because I thought maybe you'd notice that your financial stress had disappeared and wonder why. We thought business was picking up, my father admitted quietly. Dad, you've had 12 clients since Trevor's arrest. 6 of them only stayed because I personally called and vouched for your integrity. The locksmith knocked gently on the door frame. Dr. Blackwood, what would you like me to do about the locks? I looked at my parents. My father, who had taught me to play chess and drive stick shift and file tax returns. My mother, who had driven me to medical school interviews and helped me move into my first apartment and braided my hair every morning until I was 12. They had also just thrown me out of their house because they thought I was a financial burden. Change them back, I said. But I want new keys made. 3 sets. My mother started, but I held up a hand. I'm going to say something and I need you both to listen. I bought this house because I love you and because I didn't want you to lose your home. But I'm not a 25-year-old resident anymore, and I'm not your charity case. I'm a successful doctor with a thriving practice, and I've been financially supporting this family for almost a year. My father nodded slowly. What do you need from us? I need you to see me as an adult. I need you to stop treating me like a failure. And I need you to understand that if I stay here, it's because I choose to, not because I have nowhere else to go. Where would you go? My mother asked, and there was something fragile in her voice. I smiled for the first time all evening. I own a condo in Manhattan, a beach house in the Hamptons, and a cabin in Vermont. I could go anywhere. But you want to stay here? I want to stay here if you want me here. Not as your basement-dwelling burden, but as your daughter who owns the house and pays the bills and loves you enough to keep doing it. My father stood up and walked over to me. For a moment I thought he might hug me. Instead, he extended his hand for a formal handshake. Dr. Blackwood, he said. Would you be interested in a long-term rental arrangement with 2 tenants who promise to treat the landlord with the respect she deserves? I shook his hand. I think we can work something out. My mother was still crying, but she was also laughing. I threw out my own landlord. You threw out your daughter who happens to be your landlord, I corrected. But we can discuss the rent later. The locksmith finished his work and handed me 3 sets of keys. As I paid him, my mother touched my arm. Maya, the money you've been spending on us. Are you okay financially? Can you afford this? I looked at this woman who had raised me to be strong and independent and successful, who had somehow convinced herself that my strength was weakness. Mom, I made more money today during my shift than most people make in a month. I can afford to take care of you. But why? She asked. After what we did tonight. Because you're my parents. Because family takes care of family. And because now that you know who I really am, maybe we can build something better. My father was examining the deed transfer again. Westbrook Property Holdings. That's you. That's me. What else don't we know? I considered the question. I'm listed as one of the top cardiac surgeons under 35 in the country. I own part of the medical building where my practice is located. I've been offered department head positions at 3 major hospitals. I speak at medical conferences. I saved Senator Williams's life last year and she sends me Christmas cards. Jesus, my father breathed. And I've been living in your basement because I love you and I wanted to help you through a difficult time without making you feel like you'd failed. My mother sat down heavily on the stairs. We made you feel like you were the failure. You did. But that's okay. We can fix this. How? I looked around the foyer of my house at these people who had shaped me and supported me and completely misunderstood me. We start over. I'll stay here for now, but as an equal adult family member, not as your dependent child. You keep living here, but we all acknowledge the actual financial situation. And maybe you let me help Dad's firm properly instead of secretly. My father's head snapped up. Help how? I have connections. Medical professionals who need accounting services. Colleagues who are looking for tax advice. People who trust my recommendations. You'd recommend us? Dad, you're one of the best accountants I know. You just had some bad luck with Trevor. But I can help you rebuild if you want me to. For the first time all evening, my father smiled. I think I'd like that. My mother was still processing. The beach house in the Hamptons. Is it nice? I laughed. It's beautiful. You'd love it. Maybe we could go there for Thanksgiving next month. All of us. All of us. As a family. A real family where everyone contributes and everyone's valued. My father gathered up the eviction papers. What do we do with these? We frame them, I said. As a reminder that family is complicated, but love finds a way. As we stood there in the foyer of my house, I realized that this was exactly how I'd wanted to tell them about buying the house. Not as a rescue or a power play, but as a gift. As proof that their daughter had become exactly the successful, independent woman they'd raised me to be. It had just taken a pair of new locks and an eviction notice to get us there. So, my mother said finally, should we order pizza and talk about this like adults? I'd like that, I said. But I'm buying. Landlord's privilege. And for the first time in months we all laughed together. 6 months later, when my father's rebuilt accounting practice landed its biggest client ever, a medical consortium I'd introduced him to, he called to thank me. When my mother started volunteering at the free clinic where I did charity work on weekends, she said it was the most rewarding thing she'd ever done. And when Trevor finally got out of minimum security prison and needed a place to rebuild his life, he was shocked to discover that his little sister owned the family house. But that's a story for another day. For now, it was enough that when I came home from my shifts at the hospital, I used my own key to enter my own house, where my parents treated me like the successful adult I'd always been. Even if it had taken an eviction notice to get us there.